Hey, it's Brock here from Rock Hill Farms, and if you've been following along with the channel, you've seen me put a ton of work into trying to transform this shop into my dream workshop. And I've got a couple of really critical tasks left to do, and we're going to knock one of those out today. So over in this corner is enough woodworking equipment to have a phenomenal woodworking shop. But it's all packed in the corner because I have so many other projects taking up space in here. Now, since I moved that stuff into the corner, I made the comment that when I need to do some woodworking, I'll just bring it back out here. But what's actually been happening since I packed all that stuff away is every time I need a table saw, I don't want to dig through all this to get it out. So the only way this plan works is if everything that's over there is completely modular and very easy to move. And that's what we're going to try to accomplish today. So if you look over here, this is the only space in the shop that I currently consider to be wasted. I did have a plan where I wanted to store a bunch of lumber in here. I've decided that with the other things I'm doing, I don't want to dedicate floor space to this lumber. If I have a special cut or a special grade, something like this cherry that I'm going to do the epoxy pour on, or some of the walnut at the back, I may put some of that up on this shelf just to keep it pristine. Everything else is going outside. So I'm going to be creating some more wall space for some future projects. But right now, the focus is on getting this equipment mobile and easy to move around. So let's take a little inventory of this woodworking equipment. The first thing we have is the panel saw over here. I've done videos on this. This is a homemade panel saw. Really handy. It actually stores against the wall, and I don't plan to move it. But let's look at everything else. So here we have our homemade Craig drilling station. We've got a planer, and it's a heavy, heavy, heavy cabinet planer. That's one of the ones that I can't slide it or rock it across the floor. I have to move it with the mini skid steer. Then we got a table saw that is mobile on wheels. We have an outfeed table that's not movable. We have a drill press, a bigger table saw that actually has wheels, a router, a jigsaw, and then two compound miter saws. One of those is on wheels. The other one is a fixed stand. It may seem like, why do I have two identical compound miter saws? Well, they're both on different stands that serve different purposes. So that's all the woodworking equipment that needs to be really easy to move around. But then we've got other things like this shop press and my big work tables. And basically, I feel like everything in here needs to be easy to move. So, how am I going to do that? What I said I was going to do is put all this stuff on casters. So then I started looking at the logistics of actually putting this stuff on casters. And some of this stuff is really heavy. And then other things like the drill press, it's heavy, but it's got a little bitty footprint. You can't just put casters, 4 casters on that little footprint. It's not going to work. So there's issues with using casters. And another issue with casters is they can be expensive. If you want high weight capacity, large diameter casters, locking casters, 2 swivel and 2 fixed to do this right, and then I need 10 sets of 4, you're going to end up spending a bunch of money. So I've decided to go a different route. And I decided this because my dad talked me into it. It took him a few days of bringing it up that if we built custom pallets for everything in here, it would actually be more efficient. Because I've already got a narrow pallet jack and a wide pallet jack, and I often use the pallet forks on the mini skid steer to move things around in here. So I have an excessive amount of scrap wood and rough sawn lumber off my sawmill, and I think if I can build custom pallets that will accommodate either size of pallet jacks, I'll have the perfect setup to move everything without a lot of hassle. I'm in a habit of using 4x4s to set everything on. and I never run out of 4x4s. It's like they are growing out of the ground somewhere. Well, I just walked around, I couldn't find any 4x4s. So, I'm going to see if I can build pallets out of this pile here. But it tells me the next time I run the mill I need to cut some 4x4s because I don't feel like buying them. The other miter saw has long standoffs that allow you to hold long material a lot easier. This one has a really nice measurement system and a stop block that allows you to cut multiple identical parts easier. So they each have their own purpose, but this is the one I could get to back in that corner a little bit easier than the other one, so it's the one we're using. This is why I love the sawmill so much. I don't spend that much time out there. I'm not milling every day, but I've got this switch flipped in my head. When I compare casters to pallets, I think, well, I'd have to buy the casters. Wood's free. In my mind, it just feels like wood's free because I always have wood for whatever I'm doing. But this did cost me something. It cost me time and fuel in the chainsaw and fuel and blades on the sawmill, and all of that matters, but it sure feels nice not having to go to Lowe's or Home Depot or any other lumber yard when I need some wood. I think the design of this pallet is perfect. You know, with this rough cut lumber, this is going to last forever. I just need to put lag bolts through this angle iron right here, and this would be great. Except, I don't know why I made it so big. I was thinking I would center the press on it like this, and it would give it stability having overhang on both sides of the press. But then when I'm using the press, standing on this would be too close. Standing off of it would be reaching out. So if I'm going to use this pallet, this needs scooted forward to here, which would mean I would need to cut the back end off of that, and it would be wasteful having just built this bigger pallet. So I've been taking measurements of some of the other stuff, and I think I'm going to put the planer on it. The planer is like the biggest, heaviest, hardest to move thing I've got. And if I don't get everything done tonight, I can move this by hand pretty easy, but I can't move that planer. I'm sure there are people watching saying, why don't you just use a regular pallet? Well, I think it's a lot better to have a pallet that's custom sized and overbuilt. Now, this would probably be fine the way it is, but I would rather screw it down, and there are no tabs or any kind of exposed metal that sticks out that I can run a screw into. And I think it would be fine. I'm probably not going to ever shove this off of the pallet, but just in case, I'm going to make a perimeter around it so that to get it off this, it would have to be lifted up, which you're not going to do on accident. Like a glove. That ain't going nowhere unless I want it to, and then I'll use a pallet jack. For anything that has wooden legs like this, it's super simple. All you have to do is put a board across this direction that the jack can go under. Then you just have to establish a height of at least 4 inches, but not more than 6 or 7, and you're good to go. My only problem was I didn't like trying to drill this in when this is going to hold all the weight. I didn't really like just drilling it in here. So I'm going to establish the height with these cross boards that I can drill in better because this board's turned this way. I feel like I'll get more strength attaching this bottom board than I will into the side of this board. So I'm actually going to put one of these below my support board and one above. And those are going to lock it in more than just running a couple screws this way. And obviously everything you see me do on this end, I'm doing on the other end. I try not to make it more repetitive than it has to be. Nice and easy. Now your mileage may vary based on the resources you have. If you have got a bunch of casters laying around, I'd find a way to use casters. But if you're like me and you got some extra wood, I think regardless of that, I've been talking about what it costs and the convenience, but if I have my choice between the two, I'd rather have it where I can move them with the pallet jack, because then I can also, without any modifications, pick them up with a forklift, a skid steer, a tractor, whatever the case may be, and load it in a truck that way, or whatever I'm doing. So I think this is going to work out great. I would have liked to finish. I've got a lot more of these to do. I think what I'll do is finish them all off camera, and in a future video, I'll show you the finished result. And if you're watching this video and it's 6 months old, the follow-up's already published and it'll be on the screen. So I appreciate you taking time to watch. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.